Well, welcome to Thought for the Day on this Tuesday, this chilly Tuesday morning. I've been taken in my thoughts over the last couple of days back to the account of Lot. It's an Old Testament story, an Old Testament incident where Lot lived in a very evil city. He was a godly man living in an evil city, and eventually God rescued him from that city before judging it. But I wasn't reading back in Genesis. I was reading about it in 2 Peter, Peter's second letter. And this is what Peter says. He says that righteous man, Lot, living among them day by day, was tormented in his righteous soul by the lawless deeds he saw and heard. Tormented in his soul. And it made me wonder, am I troubled in my soul by bad things going on? Is my soul troubled by them? Or actually, am I in some way slightly addicted to them? I was thinking this about, there's various situations, aren't there? But I was thinking this about the whole thing in American politics. The kind of soap opera of the last days of the Trump presidency were almost addictive. I wondered, what was he going to do next? I couldn't keep my eyes off the news. Now with Joe Biden in power, somehow it's less interesting. The real business of government isn't nearly as exciting as a soap opera of what those awful things that are happening in the last few days, and maybe more are coming out now as quite what illegal pressure was being put on different people. The real business of government, with compromises, difficult decisions to be made, things taking longer, particularly trying to deal with the virus, just taking time and patience, is nothing like as exciting. Now, clearly we're troubled when we ourselves are threatened. If there's bad news that threatens us, then clearly we're troubled inside. But are we troubled simply by evil? Or do we have some sort of fatal attraction with it? And I say fatal attraction because of another biblical concept, which is that you are or you become like what you worship. What you worship is what you spend your time on, what you devote your heart and your mind to. If we devote our hearts and our minds to reading about, thinking about, talking about bad things that are happening, the warning is that we will, over time, become like them. We'll become accustomed to them. That way of thinking, that way of talking will become our way of thinking and talking, and the things we see and talk about will start to become our things. Now, I'm not saying that we should somehow become shocked, prudish, unable even to countenance them. I had a lovely elderly relative. She died many years ago now, but she was a lovely, godly lady. But you almost felt, if anything bad happened, she looked so shocked. You felt you couldn't even mention it in front of her. You couldn't possibly tell her. If I faced some struggle in my life, although I knew she was a godly person, I don't think I'd have talked to her about it, because she was just too easily shocked. So we're not supposed to be turning away from evil in that way, that we can't bear to hear about it. We're not to be blind or ignorant about the wrong that's going on in the world. But I think the pattern is that if we can spend our time, spend our words, use our thinking for God's glorious goodness, just thinking about how good God is, thinking about his good ways, thinking about his good patterns of life. If we can immerse ourselves in that, rather than immersing ourselves in this sort of fatal addiction to bad news. So another example would be the thing I mentioned a couple of weeks ago about this. I must see the latest COVID dashboard to see whether it's going up or down, and I find I'm just as interested in it going up as I am in the hope of it going down. many examples of it. If we could turn our eyes a bit away from that, turn our eyes to God's goodness, turn our eyes to the security and the peace in our hearts that can come from knowing God's goodness, then when we hear or we live among, as Lot did, evil things being done, bad things being done, lawless things being done, those things will drive us not to fascination, but to prayer, to repentance for when we start to share some of those same characteristics, and to action, to stand up for truth, humility and justice. Well, may God bless you today in this strange world we live in, and I'll talk to you again later in the week. God bless.